This is the art of network engineering, where technology meets the human side of IT. Whether you're scaling networks, solving problems, or shaping your career, we've got the insights, stories, and tips to keep you ahead in the ever-evolving world of networking. Welcome to the Art of Network Engineering podcast. My name is Andy Lapteff, and in this episode, I am joined by the man, the myth, the legend, one of my favorite people that I got to meet in person not too long ago at a USNUA event. And I can't wait to see him again. It's not going to come soon enough. William Collins. What's up, William?
How's it going? Yeah, looking forward to hanging out in person again. Denver, right? You're going to be in Denver?
I'm going to be in Denver. Hopefully, you're going to be at my pool before then, and maybe we're going to record a podcast poolside. Spoiler alert, maybe. I'm trying to bring it outside. For those out there,
the craziest thing, my in-laws happen to live like an hour or less away from where Andy lives. So I go and spend part of the summer there. So, hey, why not? If I'm there, he's there, he lives there, we'll do
William,
stuff.
You've been summering like an hour from my house for years and never once thought, hey, Andy, what's up, man? Maybe I should stop by and hang out. So I don't know what took so long, but I'm glad that our relationship has progressed to the point where you're willing to come visit me.
The vision is aligned with reality. Let's go.
And we have a very special guest on this episode. So this gentleman's name is Muna. Muna, well, I'm going to let Muna tell you who he is. So Muna, who are you? What do you do? Where do you work? And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. So my name is Muna. Originally from Nigeria. The full name of the name is Muna Chimso. It's a very long name. Yeah, Muna Chimso. It means God and I together. So I came to United States 2018. School, I'm currently working as a network automation engineer at Google. Yeah, and
I'm sorry, where? What's the name of that
Google
place? I'd never heard of that company. I just wanted to make sure.
It's a very small company.
Is that a startup? That must be a startup.
I think it's a very small startup in SF. Yeah, just trying.
I'll have to look at their stock if they ever go public. They might turn into something someday.
Yeah, I think you should.
So I'm obviously being silly, right? So Muna reached out and said, hey, man, I've been listening to the show. I'd love to come on. I'm a network automation engineer at Google. And I fell out of my seat. I'm like, whoa, this is amazing, right? To speak to, right. To get to speak to someone who works at a FANG company, right? They're the problems and the scale that Google operates on, I'm just fascinated with. I think it's amazing. We have another mutual friend, William and I, who works at Google, and I just hear the things that people at Google are working on, and like, wow, that's just really amazing. The scale, like working on global problems, right, and solving huge problems. And listen, I'm not trying to say that I'm the old guy on this call right now, but I see that you graduated. I know that I don't look it, right? I mean, wow, Andy, I thought you just got out of university as well. But I'm looking at, don't laugh too hard. I'm looking at your LinkedIn, and it looks like you graduated college in 2022. Is that somewhere around correct? Okay,
yes,
so 3 years ago,
less than.
So you're 3 years out of school, 3 years out of university, and working at Google. I'm trying to think of what I was doing 3 years out of school. I think I was not doing great in my career. So you the man, good job. I come out of school and started Google. So, we talked earlier about this before we started recording. I don't want to spend a ton of time on your story, even though it's about 15 minutes old because you're freshly out of school working at Google. But how does one, like, did you start at Google? I mean, so your resume is amazing. Like, I see the internships you did. And so I guess for someone listening, I was a person who was a cable guy for an ISP and wanted to be a network engineer. I was in my 30s. I'm starting kind of my career over, mid-career kind of like transition. I want to get into tech, blah, blah, blah. You have a very different story. It seems you look very focused, at least on paper. So did you always know you wanted to get into tech? Did you know that you would graduate college and work at one of the biggest companies in the world? Like, what's your deal, man? How did you do it?
Thanks. Thank you so much. So I would say it's different. It's a bit different, majorly because like you mentioned, a lot of folks in the network engineering space, they've been here like for a while, start from like tech, then move up. But I think my case was like when I wanted to, I know I shouldn't go too far, but like you mentioned, it's not too far back. So I think networking for me started when I was trying to get into college, and I knew I was going to be in tech. I didn't just know where. And I tried your regular web dev, and I didn't like it. So I knew, okay, it wasn't computer science. So, because I didn't really like the idea of just sitting down building websites. And that was the idea of computer science I had. So then doing some research, I discovered networking, which sounded very interesting. Like, oh, okay. So there's a field so the folks that actually build the internet, I can actually study that. That was like the view I had. I was like, okay, let's go with that. Then coming into college, taking some classes, I saw that, okay, this is a field where not a lot of my friends are doing. I was like, we were very few in my college. So I studied computer networking and IT. So also like, now a lot of people, when I tell them that was my undergrad, that was like, that is very focused. Because most times undergrad is like an IT degree. Then later on, you come in networking. But this program was like a very focused program at Alcorn State, is in Mississippi. So computer networking and IT, and from day one is like the basis of networking, still with IT, but is like an emphasis on networking. So I knew that I enjoyed networking. Like from reading it, I just liked it. Like
So
I
pause
loved
one
the
second.
idea.
I'm
Okay.
sorry to interrupt you, but I have to.
Okay.
So I thought you were a computer science major, which I guess computer networking, but you're not comp sci. So
Yeah,
so
I'm not
that's
comp sci.
that's interesting
Yeah.
to me.
Mhm.
Also, a lot of conversations I've been having the past few years, I've been getting feedback that less and less colleges are teaching networking, I think,
Yeah.
in the comp sci context. So I'm happy to hear that there are still computer networking
Programs.
concentrations out there and programs.
Yeah.
What I'm really interested in, you said you always knew you wanted to work in tech. Where did that come from? How did you know that? Do you have peers or a parent or someone in tech? And then how did you get interested in networking? Because usually when I speak to someone, they have this moment where they kind of started to learn how networking works and kind of got the bug. They fell in love, like, oh my God, I can't believe this is how it happened. So how did you know you wanted to work in tech?
Yeah, I think that first question is just growing up. I saw myself like, because living in Nigeria there's not a lot of tech advancements like in US. So the little things of, okay, using my mom's phone, and I do something for her, I solve an issue for her, and she's like, oh my God, you're so good. So I think it was my, I think looking at it back, it was just my parents that actually just emphasized that, oh, I'm actually handy with phones or computers. I think
You were
when
the
my
tech
mom
person in
came,
the family?
exactly, and yeah.
So you were fixing iPhones and people thought you were technically skillful. So I was the only, you don't even know what a VCR is probably, but I was the only person in our family that could program a VCR. These are things we used to use to record television, and they had old school magnetic tapes that you'd have to put in, and you'd have to go into the menu and set, a day, a channel, and a time that you wanted to record from and to. You didn't just push a GUI somewhere. So yeah, William, do you see what's happening? I'm teaching him. You're on mute, William. I'm teaching him what a VCR is in real time.
I was gonna say, like, doing that, programming the VCR is like more painful than like fixing Python dependency, like
Interesting.
hex sprawl lately.
But my family thought I was brilliant. They're like, oh, he can talk to the machine. So it's all context.
Exactly.
But I love how you were fixing iPhones. I was fixing VHS. I was fixing machines you can't even buy anymore.
Well, with all the time that you put in VCRs and all that old stuff, you probably could have learned Spanish and 3 other languages and be fluent in like 4 programming languages. So
if I only had any direction or any mentorship, which is kind of what I was digging at Muna. Mm-hmm. And so you grew up in Nigeria, you said?
Yes.
How old were you when you moved to the States?
So 2018, I was 17.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
Is that a huge culture shock? I mean, what a different
totally
place
different.
to live, right? Yeah.
It is totally different. It was like, it took me a while to realize, okay, stuff are done this way. If I start that, it won't finish, but it's just totally different.
What drove the move? Was it to come for opportunity, or why did?
Yeah, it was just for school.
Okay.
Especially since my mom believed I was very tech savvy. She felt like, because my older siblings, they went like the medical route, so they're already good universities in Nigeria for like medicine, biology. But my mom knew that okay, it was more computer science, tech, IT, and they felt like, oh, I'll get better opportunities here for that field. So we applied, and it was actually a thing of, oh, if you get a scholarship, because the schools here are very expensive. So it was a question
Yeah.
of, if you get a scholarship, good. If you don't, you just go to school in Nigeria. So I applied to both actually. I applied to the school in Nigeria and school in the US. I actually started the school in Nigeria for about a month in. Then the offer letter with a scholarship came from US. I was like, yes. So that was like all that happened there, and I came to the
Did you
US.
come here yourself? Did your mom come with you?
No, I came myself. My friend and I, we were two. So we applied together. We both got in to the same school. So we came together alone. And it's very funny because I was 17 then, and that time he was 16. And if you're 16 and under, you need a guardian. So I was his technical guardian.
I love that.
You can rub that in all day long.
Every time.
Clean your room.
You're still
Every
telling them what
time.
to do. And the courage it takes to do what you did, I just don't want to pass by too quickly, because I've spent a little bit of time here and there in other countries visiting where I didn't speak the language there.
Mhm.
And it was so intimidating and so hard to do anything. I was deep in France, and I was trying to buy a bottle of water, and they didn't speak English and I didn't speak French. And I had a hell of a time. I might have spent $100 on this little bottle of water because I didn't understand the currency. I didn't understand the price. I put money down. I started to back up. Like, she wasn't yelling at me, so I thought we were fine.
I good?
So, I mean, I know you spoke the language, but just to come to a different culture, a different place, it's just to me, it's such a courageous act, because I've been on the other side of that, and it's scary. It was scary for me.
Yeah.
Well, at least in France, you're around people that have great attitudes and never get snooty or anything, right?
That's
Much
only up
patience.
north. And the country, they're much nicer. Or no, it's the other way around. You're right. Up north, it's the touristy part, so they're nice. You get down south, they're like, we're not helping you, buddy. So wow, you and a friend, you said, came, and they were 16, you were 17. That's really amazing. Is school a lot different in the States? Was it a big culture shock?
Yeah, it's just different. It's totally different. Yeah, the method of teaching, like, it's totally different. For one, the schools, like, even the grading system. So in Nigeria, an A is 70 over 100, and in the US is 90. However, it looks
we're so dumb here.
No, it's because like it's so hard. Not because of how like because the stuff is pretty much the same, but like it's so hard to get that 70 because of like the lecturers are very strict with, like in US, I heard you can curve a grade. That wasn't a thing in school.
Right.
You get your score, If you're like in physics, and if you're solving and you don't put your units, you lose mark, you fail the question. So there was like, it's so hard. It's like they're trying to see who can pass. It's like, not everybody's going to pass. Just the elite of the elite would pass. But in US, it's very different. It's very encouraging. Like, they want everybody to pass. There's this like, okay, everybody can actually learn and do it well and pass. So
Muna's like, I'm surrounded by idiots here. This is great.
Well, yeah. Well, like, it's just...
I met some dumb who's excited about programming a VCR. I'll be fine here.
No. The
so
US,
when did you
like,
get... I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I didn't want to cut you off. I'm curious to when did you get the network bug? Like, how did you go from fixing mom's iPhone to like, oh my God, networking's amazing. I want to do this for my life. When did that happen?
So it was more of it's different. So all the schools I was checking, when I was applying for schools, all the schools I was checking for computer science. Then I saw this random school, computer, networking, and IT. What's that? Then I just started reading. It sounded interesting. I'm like, why not? And another difference, like in Nigeria, when you apply for a program, you can't just change your major. Like, that is what you're going to do for 4 years. So you have to
Hmm.
like make a good decision at a young age. But I heard in US you can always change your majors. So I was like, oh, it sounds different. If I don't like it, I can always switch it out. But yeah, it's different. Let's go. And that was like one of the best decisions I've ever made. Like I
But
really
you tried
loved it.
comp sci and didn't like it, right? You said you're doing like web dev or something like that. And it just
Yeah, I
wasn't.
tried some
Yeah, okay.
HTML, CSS. Although looking at it, that's not all about computer science. But at that point, I thought that is all about it. So when I tried HTML, CSS, hated it, dropped it, and said, okay, IT might be the thing for me.
Did
Yeah.
you do any coding during that time? Like, as you were kind of figuring out that you wanted to do networking, was it something you were kind of in a little bit, like software development principles or anything? Or did
So
that
actually,
come kind of after the network engineering
yeah.
stuff?
So I think coding for me was while in school when I realized that the market was shifting. Because so while in school, my first year, second year, just reading, I took the CompTIA A+ by my sophomore year. Then so I now trying to get internships, and also like there are only software engineering jobs out there, especially for most of the jobs for internships are like coding heavy. So I was like, okay, maybe I have to learn coding myself because the IT program had some coding courses, but just basic courses. So I was like, okay, maybe I have to actually learn this myself. So I reached out to my computer science friends. Oh, okay. I know I said I don't like you guys, but looks like I might like you guys. But it was now different for me because I saw that, okay, this is more of network automation and not just web dev. I'm not building websites. I don't even need to know anything about HTML, CSS.
So are you saying when you were looking for internships, you couldn't find networking internships? Most of them were coding. Is that,
Yes.
did I catch that? Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
So most of the internships out there, especially for like, it's like software heavy internships.
Yeah.
Even even the networking ones, there was some level of automation required. So that's when I started doing some research, and also like I think I entered at the sweet spot because I saw that okay, the market is shifting where okay, networking is needed, but they want people to code. They want people to be able to automate their systems. So that's when I knew that okay.
This is a very, very mature insight. And I'm not, I swear to God, I'm not hung up on age. I'm really not. But the maturity of that insight, and William, correct me if I'm wrong, but because I'm a person who's been, maybe the older you get, the more biased you are, and it's harder to accept new ideas. But the longer I've been in networking, the more I resisted automation, even though the market was changing. And I have since, I've realized in my 40s, whatever, slightly older than you, the insight that you had that the market was changing. You seem to have it while you were in school, which I think is brilliant. And you saw that the skill set, right, William? Like that's a pretty deep insight.
You weren't just
for a
looking
kid
at
in
one
school.
signal or like, hey, one thing that I hear so much still with folks your age is okay, I'm going to give you like 4 options. Which one do you think will make the most money?
Yeah.
And I'm like, like that's what you want to find where you fit, what you're happy doing, where the market is going. Like there's all these different signals that you can take note of, and that helps inform your decision. And that sounds like kind of what you did. You had like multiple signals in different places. You took those signals to make the best decision on how to progress, which I think is.
How did you determine
like
that?
said, wisdom.
What signals, like William said, were you looking at that you could see that the market was shifting and they wanted automation? And the reason I'm asking is we've been talking about network automation for decades and the adoption rates aren't that impressive. So for you to gain that insight, I think you're a bright person, basically. Like for you to get that, because the industry's still trying to catch up to that insight that you had early on.
I think it's different because I think, like you mentioned, you were already like a lot of people are like already network engineers, but me, I was looking at it from I'm trying to get in. Okay, I like network engineering, but I was still looking at the tech space and all, and everything tech space is software. So I even had friends that came in networking and they switched over from computer science. But I genuinely actually like networking. So I think that was the thing about me. Like, I actually like networking. So because of everything is now software, I'm not just going to leave that. So I now, okay, is is it possible to still have that networking and just still code? Because I, like most of my study times was moved to my computer science friends because those are the best people to learn how to code from. So I knew that, okay, I need this software skill, but I just felt it. I don't know if it's just guts, but I just liked, and I think I already devoted a lot because I already took the computer A plus. I was studying for the network plus at that time. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, it looks like I've already devoted money to taking some IT stairs. Okay, I think I should stay here, but okay, software. Well, it's not that bad. I can learn it. I'm still in school, so I can learn it. So I think that was the thing. So I saw that the whole tech space, not just network engineering, but the whole tech space is software. And I saw that, okay, there was also a place in IT, in networking for software, and it's actually gaining, what's the word? Start gaining movement. Like a lot of people were talking about it at that time. Like, okay, network concern. Then I just said, okay, Python is the language. Then I'm like, okay, everybody's talking about Python. Okay, at least it wasn't HTML and CSS. It wasn't C Sharp. It wasn't any of those. C++, it was Python. So I was like, okay, let me try it out. And I think that's where it hit off.
So yeah, one observation here, and I think one thing that's going to probably serve you really well is that the market right now. So like, I mean, I don't really know when this started. It's been maybe not 10 years, but it's been a little while. But the market shifted to where like everyone coming out of college just wanted to be a software engineer. They studied software, and they didn't know anything about foundational infrastructure, about TCP, about disaster recovery, about high availability, about distributed systems. Really, a lot of times they were just focused on the language, the coding, and how to code and build things. And one thing I see that's like super valuable is, to me, like one of the most valuable types of practitioners out there is someone that like learned, say network engineering or, sysadmin, server management, compute stuff. And then they layered on the programming experience on top of that for practical reasons and like learn progressively like with their trade. So I think that'll serve you well, having that, a good solid background in network engineering, while being able to do some, where you're at, probably some pretty good coding on top of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
If I could change anything about my career, it would have been to embrace programming much earlier and jumped into Python. Now I see the value and I'm amazed at what I'm learning, but it took me a while and I resisted. And Muna, you made a good point, like because you were trying to get in and you surveyed the landscape and you made a very good observation on the skills that were needed. I had been working in networking for 8 or 9 years without those software development skills. So my experience was they're different, they're separate, never the two shall, mix. And that worked until it stopped working, honestly, right? I found myself, because I wasn't paying attention like you were, and because quite honestly, I had a negative experience as a computer science major failing out of C++, that I made a decision that like, I'm not smart enough to program. I can't, figure this out. Now, it turns out it wasn't true, but I carried that belief system with me for a really long time. And then the market, the job market finally moved towards like, hey, if you don't know programming, I mean, we got cloud, now we got AI, you better get some Python, buddy. Like, what are you doing? So, if I could change anything, it would be to follow the path that you've, been following this whole time. I think it's super, super smart.
Yeah, thank you.
I got some practical questions if we want to jump into the day-to-day stuff. I'm just itching to ask some things.
You can't ask about Google, William.
The search engine, is that?
We have to say Schmoogle. We can't say.
So, I mean, just thinking about operating networks at scale, of course, when I first started doing any sort of programming, I think the first real language I used was Perl back in the day. And there wasn't a lot of the fancy tools helping things. Like it was general purpose programming languages like expect, those types of things. But now there's like a nice just suite of tools that you can use everywhere, so for cloud stuff, like you have like the Terraform, OpenTofu, or like the domain specific cloud provider stuff. But then you also have a mishmash of like real, usually like Python or Go for networking, backend stuff. But like, do you have like a preferred method from the tool perspective? Like, how do you view those tools like Ansible, Terraform, Python, Go? Like, where do they fit in what you think is valuable for, automating and network specific stuff? And it might help too. So I know enough about Google where like there's lots of different teams, lots of different types of infrastructure that do lots of different automation. So kind of like, I don't know if you can actually talk about the realm of the network that you work in. That might shed some light as well.
Yeah, thank you. Then just to give some background information before. So when I started with Python, so when I knew that networking was network automation, the language was Python. So just to highlight, there was like a Coursera course. So when I first learned how to Python with Udemy and some friends, then there was like this course, Google. This was actually a Google course. Interesting. I never knew how come, but it was a Google IT automation with Python. So that gave me a lot of context to automation and Python, because like it's like a Coursera course. I took it, like 6 courses. I took it and it just opened my mind to like, okay, this is actually fun. Then specifically to Google, like you mentioned, they do a lot of things. Then first, a disclaimer. This is definitely just my thoughts. I'm not speaking on behalf of Google. This is definitely just me, my thoughts, my ideas. I'm not speaking on behalf of anybody. So, at most of all this talk, because I also did like an internship at Facebook, now Meta, at college. And what I've noticed, like these companies do things totally differently, like totally different. Like some of the tools you mentioned, I've only read about it and maybe done some tests with it, but never used like Ansible. There's like always a Google or like a company specific stuff that is similar in some ways, but it's different. And because like you mentioned, like Google, the scale at which they do stuff is incredible. Like they're talking about thousands or even millions of devices. So they have like internal teams that build software for just their use. So they have teams that build software for the deployment team. One of my current team is one of those teams. We build workflows for some operations. So most of the tools we are using is like, you've not heard of it. But the common thing I'll say is like Python and Go, like you mentioned. That is what actually no more Python, actually it's just Go. So previously we used majorly Python, but there was this big shift in the company and like mostly Go, almost all systems. So it's Go. I came into Google with Python, but now it's Go. It's mostly Golang I use all day.
I have a question.
Okay.
Why, and not related to your job, but as someone who's learning the very basics of Python now, I have friends who are like, dude, just go with Golang. Don't even bother with Python. So is there a reason to... I'm trying to ask you a question without making it about your work, but why would someone go from Python to Go? Does Go have certain benefits that Python doesn't? Just technically, not related to your job.
Technically. Yeah, I think for learning it, first, and for you, I think if you learn Python, you can learn Go as well. Like it's one and the same. But I found Go to be a lot faster. I think because I was also curious why they made that shift, and I realized that Python has a lot of like libraries and where there are a lot of stuff that is packaged on package where you can sometimes it's like you're writing English. That's good about Python, but with that is slow. It's a bit slow because of the all processing that it has done for you. So a friend of mine said, like in coding, there are two things. So most times either the language is doing the processing or the engineer is doing the processing. So if it's easy for you to write, it's most likely like a lot of back-end processing is being done by the programming language, which makes it slow. But for a language like C++, where there's like a lot of syntax, a lot of you writing the logic, like to do something that might take 5 lines in Python, in C++ is like 20 lines. So that is because it's still 20 lines. It's just done for you in the back end of the programming language. So yeah, so I think with Golang, they kind of found that middle spot, where it's not as slow as Python, but it's also relatively easy. Where there are some things in Python like it's just one line, but in Go you have to write it yourself, like in 3-4 lines. So I think Go just has that sweet spot between speed, but also usability. And I think it was when started at Google, so I don't even know the context between. I don't know much context with that, but like using Go, like it's a wonderful language actually. Like it was made for network engineering.
But should I stick with Python and then learn Go? Because I hear Python is like the easiest as far as syntax and
I think I would, if I go back, I'll still learn Python first.
Python. Okay, I'll stick with Python.
Yeah, I think you should.
Right.
I think you should.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I think you highlighted a pretty good issue there. So the big hyperscale networks that are just huge, the biggest out there, like for most networks out there, Python's going to be fine. But operating at such a type of scale, with Python being, why can't I think of the word? Interpreted.
Yes.
So you have this global interpreter lock that can basically like bottleneck the tarnation, out of like multi-threaded network apps. So you have that problem, which really doesn't rear its ugly head until you're probably operating at some massive kind of scale. But then even the standard, like Golang has like, I can't remember the names. Like you have HTTP, like WebSocket. They have like a few standard libraries that cover most use cases that you're going to require. But when you deal with Python, you're going to have a lot more, like you were saying with the library sprawl. It's a little complicated.
Yeah.
I'm just going through the list here. One thing that I wanted to hit and we got away from, so I hate to go backwards here, but it looks like you did some kind of network operations residency program. So I guess you did a bunch of, you were in school, you did a bunch of internships. I see that there was a lot of Python stuff in there, which obviously has helped you tremendously. And then, so it looks like you got into your current employer with, I guess, some type of residency program that was 2 years. Are you able to speak to that at all? Is that for like a fresh grad coming in and like kind of a boot camp of like, hey, you're here, let's get you going?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, like you mentioned, a lot of, I think William mentioned it, that a lot of new grads in schools, there is software engineering. So I think that is one affecting companies where they need, like for most companies, like there's not a lot of young folk interested in networking. So most of these companies, I think Meta also has the program. I think multiple companies have.
Do you know why?
Where they are trying.
Because it's a problem people are trying to figure out. I'm sorry to interrupt you. Yeah. Do you know why? You're so full of wonderful information and like, I'm sorry. I know I keep interrupting you, but like that's a big one right there. Why doesn't anybody want to go into networking? I thought it was because we weren't teaching it. Here you are in a networking program, but your peers don't want to go into networking. Is it just not an attractive field?
Yeah, for
Definitely
one,
not attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel it's not as attractive as software engineering. I think that's it. I think there's this thing where that is being pushed, like software engineer. So definitely network engineering is not as attractive as that. But also, I think it's also not being taught as much because I had to go out of my way to be actually good at networking. Yes, my school did a wonderful work, but to actually get these opportunities with like Meta while I was in school with Lenovo, I had to go out of my way to like get this CompTIA certifications because I saw one. I started them as means to study like personal study, then might as well just get a cert. But I saw how those certifications, because a lot of these companies were actually, well, I say impressed, but they like the fact that, I have networking background, but I can still code because most times is the young people in the team, they are software. Then the bit older folks, they are network gurus. So, but I think one thing that helped me like stand out is the fact that I have the software skills, but I also have a bit of the networking, and I'm interested in networking. So they don't see that a lot. So when they see somebody actually interested in networking but can also code, that's like, okay, that's a
You're
good.
a unicorn. You're like right? I mean, you're
Yeah.
it. I've heard of you. There's one of you out there, and like you're the guy. It's amazing.
Keep following this path right here.
Right. This is the path to success, I think. Right.
Yeah.
This is so I'm sorry, I know I interrupted you. So you were getting out of school, or a bunch of people, they want to go into coding, and how did you find the residency program?
Yeah, so I actually knew I knew the residency program like in my third year because I actually knew somebody in it. So I think that's how I first. So I knew a graduate from that program, and he told me about it. And I was like, oh, awesome! So I just started, and my fourth year, I looked into it and I applied. So the program is like, so these top companies, they're now trying to bring in people. Okay, the bar for you have to definitely be technical. They have interviews, but the bar to enter wasn't as high as like employing a network engineer at Google. So the bar is that okay, you're young and you really really want to do networking.
Was there a technical interview to get in?
Yes.
Like, tell us about TCP to UDP and like
TCP.
whatever.
That's the thing. So this, I think, those questions, TCP, UDP, OSPF. I think some dabbled in BGP, but it's just a bit. But your regular network engineering interview questions, but they also asked interviews also based on like for some people that were more software but had a little network. Like I didn't have I had little coded, but I heard from someone too that in the program that she got a more coding questions because that was her background. So, but these programs are like to get new grads into and teach them and train them in the networking space. And after the 2 years rotation, they get placed in a team in the networking space, either as a network engineer, as a TPM, a network engineer. Well, I think recently they've also been adding a pure software engineer, but in the networking space, in the network domain. So yeah, so that's the program. So I found the program. I applied. So it's actually very straightforward. So I knew of the program actually, and funny, I applied for a cloud program because the network program wasn't yet available, and the recruiter was like, "Your resume looks good for this program." I was like, "Yes, I know, but it's not yet out." So she was like, "Okay, let's pause on that." And when the network rotations opened up, I applied for that. So it was just like a perfect fit for me, and I guess I was lucky. But yeah, it's just a very good fit for me. But like I mentioned, it's a program for training new grads into the networking space.
This reminds me of like the NFL draft, and you're like a high first round draft pick, so you're going through the motions, and you have a lot of skills and experience from pretty awesome stuff. Isn't that kind of like how it feels like with the intern program directly getting drafted to honestly, like the Patriots in your case, or some titan of, snatching up trophies. So pretty cool.
Yeah, thank you.
I'm going to ask a question that is a little embarrassing to ask, but I see that I try to think of how to say things and not sound like a complete jerk, but I see that you were a network engineer. Well, right. Well, so what I'm looking at is you're a network automation engineer now.
Mm-hmm.
Prior to that, you were a network engineer.
Mm-hmm.
So they're very, to me, I guess what I'm trying to dig at is, do you consider yourself a network engineer? What's behind that question is, network engineer for me has been a very different experience than what I see and hear you have done. You've been coding, you've been resolving bugs, you've been doing all kinds of cool Python and building custom applications to manage millions of devices. In my mind, a network engineer is different than a network automation engineer. And I don't know if that's a fair demarc that I'm creating, but Do you
I
see them
agree.
as two separate career fields?
Yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying because I first started like my first rotations, I was doing like your basic logging into some devices, but it was like in a test lab, but logging into devices. I did some tests for DHCP snooping. Then I got into more cases where okay, automate some deployments, okay, write code to push some deployments from BGP. So I stopped writing the configs, but now writing code to push it. But I do believe they are separate. Like actually, my current manager now, yeah, but he always says that he thinks of us as process engineers or systems engineers, less of because he was also like the same way of okay, originally like pure network engineer, and later on entered the system of like code. So he always believes that okay, we are more of systems / process engineers where we're writing code, but we're not actually doing your traditional BGP, OSPF, ISIS. Like you're not doing that anymore. And I agree with you. Personally, I still like networking. That's why I now to still with my chest say I'm a network engineer. I now go out of my way to do some study. So I'm currently even studying for the CCNP data center. I don't need it for work. It's not related to what I'm doing at all.
Just for fun.
Good for you.
Yeah, and just to say I'm a network engineer.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah.
you're definitely a network engineer, and I hope I hope that didn't come across as me being dismissive of. Yeah. But
yeah, I
because what's interesting to me in the industry is like you had pointed it out earlier, we have comp sci students who come out, and then maybe networking people that like, is it easier to teach? Again, you're a unicorn. You came with both skill sets, and you're very good at both. It sounds like networking and coding, but is it easier to take a comp sci student who knows nothing about networking and teach them enough networking to be a network automation engineer, right? Like, is that a thing? Or can you take an older guy like me who only knows networking and it's like, okay, buddy, time to learn Python and Git and CI/CD pipelines and like go like. So I don't know where I'm going with all that, but it's just interesting to me you have both. And because what I find, a lot of the network automation tooling that I've used, and not Python, like not coding, but the actual tools people have created, to me have always felt like and looked like something that were created by software development people that never managed the network. So there was so much friction for people like me to try to use this. Like, what is this thing? There's no networking context. This is all software dev. Like, I hate it, right? But then someone like you who has done networking, you're a network engineer, but you also bring that coding experience. I'm guessing if someone like you created, I don't know, let's say a data center fabric automation platform, there'd be enough networking context in that tool for it to feel familiar to a trad NetOps like me, who's like, what is this stuff? So I don't know, that the industry's changing. It's kind of interesting to me that these worlds are coming together, and I guess the industry's trying to figure out how to navigate and go forward. I would love a tool written by you that when I look at it and use it, it feels like networking and not so software-y. It's, we have to get old guys to automate, and I just don't know how to do it with a lot of the tooling that I've touched.
Yeah, I totally understand and I agree with you, and I'll give some examples. But to first answer your question, I think most companies are doing the route. So both ways, because speaking to one of my coworkers, I had at the time at one of the companies I worked at, they were incentivized. What's the word? They were encouraging network. Yes. They were encouraging network engineers to code by giving them a bonus if you learned it. And there was like this. The company had this system to like a badge. Like generally, like even the software engineers, there's this like to say I'm proficient at a language. So normally software engineers are expected to have like to mark that badge, but they were encouraging network engineers by giving them a small bonus if you got that badge.
I would have Python my ass off if they paid me more.
Yeah, money. I mean, wow,
seriously.
that's awesome. That's a great way to learn.
Because
So
my
saw the
environment
potential.
was I couldn't find the time to do that. There was no incentive other than you're going to lose your job eventually. And I'm like, I'm drowning in maintenance windows. I don't know when to do it. If they incentivize me with money, that's really smart.
Yeah. So that company did that where they were encouraging their network engineers to code. Also, they were now employing, but they understood that the market space is mostly software engineers that have little to no networking. And that's this programs like the network rotations program. Meta has something like that too, but for new grads too. Most of these companies, they have programs like that where they bring you on as a pure software engineer and teach you enough networking to code. That's the thing. So in that case,
Does that work? Because
so that's the
honestly,
thing.
I feel like networking is easier than coding. I know that I'm biased
Yeah.
but I feel like it's easier to teach a software dev enough networking to get by than the
Yeah.
reverse. Now William isn't necessarily like William's been coding forever. So I don't know which one of us is more representative of network engineers in general, but
Yeah, I think
Probably
like
you, because I tried to get out of networking for like 20 years and I never could. My life.
I think like you mentioned is enough to go by. Because I was in this team where previously they had a network engineering team, they had a software engineering team. So the network engineers will write the design doc, write what they want automated, then they pass it to the software team, and the software team would write it up. So I was in the QA team, and my job was to get the software, get the network requirements, right? Get the code that was written, and does it tally, and test it. One, is the code doing what they said it should do? And two, is it actually working? Like find bugs. So I realized that there was this huge disconnect where the network engineers can make a mistake. Like they can make a clear mistake that even the network engineer will be like, oh man, this is a clear error. Like a network engineer reading this will be like, oh, this is obviously a mistake. But a software engineer has no context whatsoever that he codes it up. So when I'm reading the doc, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So when I'm reading the code, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. So I went back to the doc. I'm like, oh, he made a mistake, but it was clear it's a mistake because I have that like the knowledge from both domains. But so I saw that gap. But then I'm now seeing teams, and I've seen they've been changing the structure where it's one team, where the network engineer and the software engineer, like right now, my team, there are network engineers on the team and there are software engineers on the team. Originally,
pair them up, right?
they are pairing them up, but now they're even going to the stage where they are telling the network engineers to learn coding, and they are telling the software engineer. So they're kind of.
Are they teaching each other?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're trying. The goal is that after a while, they should be swappable. Like you shouldn't, if you speak to both people, you shouldn't know there's a difference that this one is a software engineer or this is a network engineer. So
I would argue that's a much more effective way to learn.
Yes.
Like for someone like you to teach me coding, because if we worked together and taught each other what we knew, then the paths I've tried, I think. So they're seeing success in that. That's what they're doing, and it's working.
Yeah.
Pairing them together.
I didn't get the last part. My network feels a bit.
It's okay. They're seeing success in pairing traditional network engineers and developers together and teaching each other, because everybody wins, I guess, right? If we need the skill set you have, naturally, because you're so brilliant, you saw the writing on the walls, but there's people like me who need to. I would have loved to have been paired with a developer and had a relationship with them and work together. We were always siloed, and that didn't happen. And I was on my own, like, okay, nights, weekends, holidays, like teach yourself, buddy, which just didn't work.
That says something. You have to have the willingness to like learn. You want to want to do it, because if you don't really want to do it, you can get the mandate from like a leader and say, hey, go do this, sit with this person. And you can say, yeah, I'll do that. And then go and listen and not really let any of it sink in. You really have to want to get better. You have to want to improve and get, those skills. And I do know a lot of people out there that are never going to code. They're never going to get AI skills under their belt. But they are like true, like they're doing things in the network space where all of their cycles are in the bits and the bytes of like deep network engineering. They don't have any time, and the work they're doing is so important with as deep as they're going that they need to stay there, because I don't know a lot of people that can do those types of jobs and dedicate their life to that trade and that aspect of that trade. So
Muna's skill set is the future, and I guess the future's now, right? But so to have both, Muna, is the perfect recipe for success.
Thank you.
To William's point, if you're out there and you're working in networking and you're super busy and working all the maintenance windows and just trying to keep the lights on, you know, if you have a family as well and like, you know, responsibilities, like if the older you get, the more responsibility you have, the harder it is to find those cycles to teach yourself things, you know, in the off hours, even though it's going to be critical to success. And I mean, I've seen the writing on the walls. I'm learning coding, not because I love coding, but because I know I'll be irrelevant in the space if I don't. AI is here, and I'm, you know, trying to get this LLM, you know, book for dummies basically started, because I know that that's the next, right? Like automation was yesterday, kind of, you know, and AI is I mean, you got people vibe coding, for Christ's sake, like, you know, they're coding and don't even know what they're doing, you know, because of AI. So I don't know. There's always this, it's just next fascinating to me. I don't know, as an industry, and maybe it's because I work at a networking vendor and because I truly love networking, I don't know how we can get to a better place where we have good network engineers who also have the software skills they need, when our colleges, I'm not trying to get on a soapbox, but it seems to be that our colleges are spitting out comp sci graduates who aren't interested in networking for the most part, and then networking people who aren't necessarily interested in coding. And maybe this is old guy talk. Maybe the newer kids coming up, they love both, like yourself, but it's just not what I've seen. So I'm very refreshed and hopeful and optimistic hearing your story, because to have both is great, because I've always seen dev and networking as silos, and we can't move our industry forward and get it to where it needs to go. Like once cloud came along and it was like push button everything, it kind of ruined it for the old school trad NetOps guys. Like that became an option. So like, all right, I guess we got to figure out automation, because somebody figured out how to make it consumable and easy. Right, William? I see you nodding your head.
Oh yeah, I remember the first time I fought Terraform when it first came out. Like, this cloud stuff is a fad. Nobody's going to put their stuff in like another person's data center. Get out of here. This Terraform thing is like a hipster, you know, chai latte on the beach with sandals thing, and on the phone, you know. But then I realized, you know, after using it and seeing it in action and doing things with it, like, okay, I see why this tool was created and the problem it solves. I'm a long-term fan now. I love it. So yeah, you got to get, you know, sometimes it takes a second to get in. You have to get in that turn and understand what's happening and wrap your head around it before you can fully embrace it. So be curious out there, folks. That's the thing. Be curious. Get out there and test things out. Everything's free trial or open source. There's so much stuff out there to just go out and free tier your time up with. So yeah, be curious.
And be willing to question your own biases and preconceived notions of reality. And I know that sounds kind of like woo-woo and like way too psychological, but I resisted coding for probably decades, because I had an experience when I was 19 that created neural pathways in my brain that said, I'm not smart enough to do this. Now I found a circuitous route back into tech through climbing ladders and getting shocked and, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then CCNA, and here we are. But if you're a network engineer, what's our message here? I mean, I think if you're a traditional, what Scott Robotham would call trad NetOps person, and you don't want to automate, and you can, and that's not for us. And I think, Muna, you're a perfect example of someone who really has the right mindset, the right combination of skills that are going to succeed in this software-driven world, right? It's going to be very difficult, I think, to compete as a network-only skilled person as time progresses, because that's just not where the industry is, and definitely not where it's headed. Where do you see the future of network engineering? I mean, I know that it's an unfair question to ask you, but somebody who's coming up, I mean, there's going to be people. We have a lot of people who listen who are either trying to get in or in a help desk, or they want to be in networking, and they come along this ride with us because they want to do this job. What would you tell somebody coming up that wants to be a network engineer? How should they do it? What skills do they need? What advice do you have for newcomers that want to get in?
For someone like, let's say, about to graduate or just trying to switch careers, and like, oh, what do I need to do? Like, I think it's clear. I think one, you should be open to coding. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of biases to, like, when you hear coding, C++, no, or is it HTML, CSS, like in my case, at first. I think, like, just embrace it. Yes, there's vibe coding, but still you should understand how to code, because I think the value is turning less from, can I code, or less of, can I write some commands. I think now the value is, do I understand how the system works? Like, especially like because with AI, there's a demand for large infrastructures. So there's a demand for large data centers. So like even the government, they're investing in data centers. So with all of that, there's going to be jobs open for like network engineers, and the demand will be like, okay, I need people that can understand these large, complex networks. You won't need to type in NBGB command anymore. You might not need to even write the code. Like, you might write the code, but
you hit me right in the heart. Hold on. I just need a minute. I need a minute. Oh my God. You just attacked my entire
Is your back
career.
okay too when you drift sideways like that?
But isn't it like, it hit me in the chest when he said that, but that's where we are. But
yeah,
I'm sorry.
Right.
I had a visceral reaction. I'm going to mute myself and let you keep talking.
And you might even need to, even for the people that like code, because obviously, like right now I still code, but now it's like they're teaching folks to code from like high school. Like, you see, I'm seeing like 15-year-old kids that can do more coding than I can. So coding is now turning to like, can I speak? Like the next generation of, that's why like almost everybody coming out from college, at least they are fluent in Python. And like that's like the list. So I think where you now make yourself valuable is, can you understand systems? Can you understand complex systems? And that's, for me, that's valuable, since I understand a bit of I'm still learning though, like the general network technologies. Now when I read, like in my blog, I'm not focused on the commands. I'm trying to understand, okay, what was the concept? What are you trying to do here? So when you understand these like complex protocols or technologies, understand how they work, you're able to now replicate that knowledge to solve a problem. Like in the office the other day, they were explaining like a topology. I'm like, that's how OSPF works. Like, it's not OSPF, but I swear, like, everything they explained was like OSPF. So I was able to do that mental mapping because I understood like some core network engineering. Some people, they didn't understand, they don't even know what OSPF like is on the table. So they had to understand it as a fresh topic. But since I already had like that knowledge of OSPF, I was just drawing patterns to understand what they were talking about. So just learning new technologies, learning how the technologies work, and not necessarily how to implement it. You can learn how to implement some stuff later on, but what will make you valuable? Because like I mentioned, the tools that most people are using, like they don't even use it at Google. So now the question is, in your interviews, they will still ask you those questions but what they are looking for is, okay, can you adapt? Okay, you say that what you know is C++. Do you know that stuff enough? Not just, I can write C++, but how do you think? How are you understanding this? If I give you a large problem, how are you going to solve it? So I think now, that's why I always believe, like, right? Yes, that's why I believe AI can never 100% replace humans, because that place of understanding, solving problems, AI is still in the grand scheme of things, it's still garbage in, garbage out. So you need someone to have enough context to even use AI. You need someone in the driving seat. So those are the kind of talent they're looking for now. Someone that can understand systems, problem solve, think outside the box. I know that's very cheesy, but yeah, I think
I don't think
outside
it's
the box
cheesy at all.
just
I think that's spot on. If you can understand complex systems, how they work, the business problem that those complex systems are solving,
Yep.
and then be able to apply that problem solving methodology system wide in different contexts. I mean, you're gold in the market if you have
that's what, and that's why you still need to understand how things were done before. I think that's why I'm even learning, still like studying for CCNP, even though I don't need it, because I just want to see how are they solving problems back then. So when they are talking, the older engineers in the office, I noticed that a lot of times they make references to how they were doing things 10 years ago, but I don't have that reference. So they're able to like say that, okay, this won't work because that's how it was done before, and this would work this. So that fundamental knowledge is still very needed. So like, I don't bash against certifications, although I know like, okay, the paper might not mean as much, but the knowledge you're getting from there is still useful. So just always learn, and when you're learning, just be thinking on the grand scale. One of my managers, she was like, anytime you're doing anything, always think scale. How can I do this for 100,000 network switches? That's how you should always be thinking. So, because if I bring up a solution because I think we had a problem and I was bringing up solutions for one device or two devices, the thing was like, that's not scalable. That's not scalable. So that's how one should be thinking in this.
I'll scale it. I just need more time, man. I can do one at a time. I just give me a year. I'll be fine. Muna, this has been so insightful, so wonderful. You're such a great energy. I've learned so much from talking to you, and I'd love to have you on again sometime, because I feel like sometimes I just meet people and I feel like I could talk to them forever. You know, we're at the hour. I got to let William get to bed. The poor guy. Look at him. He's going to fall over. Thank you both for being here. Muna, where can people find you if they want to learn more about what you're up to?
Okay, so my LinkedIn, I can share it with you.
I'll leave it in the
strategy before the show.
I'll leave it in the show notes.
Yeah, so my LinkedIn's there, my blog. That's like my personal notes. So I still have some notes that I've not, because I still have to refine it, clean the English before posting it. But I try as much as possible to drop my
What's the name
personal
of your blog?
note. Yeah, so it's networksbymuna.com.
Networks by Muna, MUNA.
And yeah.
And I checked it out, and I really enjoyed it. And when you figure out how EVP VXLAN works, you can write a blog about it and teach me, because I'm still trying to figure it out. William, do you have any parting thoughts, my friend? People obviously know where to find you. Cloud Gambit, William is everywhere. But you have any parting thoughts?
No, just stay curious. And I thought this was a really interesting. Your background and your story is just different. I like it. It was really refreshing. And it's refreshing also to see your excitement and the positive experiences that you've had. I love to hear stuff like that. It was great. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll be watching. I can't wait to see what you do next. I can't wait till you create a startup and become bigger than your current employer. It's going to be amazing.
You're in the right place for that kind of thing.
Yeah. As always, listeners, thank you so much for joining us for this episode. You can find all things Art of NetEng at our Linktree. It's Linktree/Art of NetEng. I always like to mention that we have a Discord server in that Linktree called It's All About the Journey. We have thousands of folks in there studying for all kinds of different technologies, certifications, lifting each other up when they fail a certification, and celebrating each other when they win. So if you don't have a community, you can check it out. Again, Linktree/Art of NetEng. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll catch you next time on the Art of Network Engineering podcast. Hey, folks, if you like what you heard today, please subscribe to our podcast in your favorite podcatcher. You can find us on socials at Art of NetEng, and you can visit Linktree/Art of NetEng for links to all of our content, including the A1 merch store and our virtual community on Discord called It's All About the Journey. You can see our pretty faces on our YouTube channel named The Art of Network Engineering. That's youtube.com/Art of NetEng. Thanks for listening.